Good morning. It is a beautiful Monday morning here in Noblesville. I hope it's a beautiful Monday wherever you are. I am Mayor Chris Jensen, mayor of my hometown of Noblesville, Indiana, and welcome to another edition of Mental Health Monday here on April 28th, 2025. It's actually Ashley Diebold in our office's birthday. So what a great day for a spring birthday. But I am joined by my good friend, Kristen Boice, the owner of Pathways to Healing Counseling here today. Good morning, Kristen.
Morning, Mayor Jensen. I'm excited to be here today.
We're always excited for you to be here and appreciate you giving of your time to discuss all sorts of topics. Today we have a special guest. Lindsay Zehren is here, which we're going to have her introduce herself here in just a few moments to talk about the work that she does in the musical therapy space, which is something that I've been turned on to lately. The last couple of years, Lindsay's actually taught me a lot about it and the work in this space. So we're excited to kind of dive into that and then talk a little bit about art therapy today as well. So just kind of continuing, Kristen, to expose folks to all sorts of mechanisms and ways to tackle mental health, which I think is incredibly helpful. We know that not one size fits all, correct? And something that might work for you may not work for your spouse or your kids or people around you, or you want to try new avenues for mental health, which is what we want to continue to explore. But before we do any of that, we must first tackle our ability to square breathe and calm ourselves, which is my favorite thing to do throughout the day. But Kristen, I'll let you kind of lead us through that exercise this morning.
I love the square breathing. So if you're triggered, which most of us get triggered a couple of times a day at least, if you're in traffic, if someone says something to you, maybe you read something on the internet that brings up a lot of feelings, this is a way to come back to center and center yourself and come back into regulation. We don't want to be dysregulated. We like to be regulated. So this is a way to calm our nervous system. So we're going to start with putting our feet on the floor. It's very important. What it does is it grounds us into the present moment. We're not in the future. We're not in the past. We're right here in the present moment. It helps our bodies know we're okay and we're safe. And then we're going to breathe in through our nose for 4. We're going to hold for 4 and a slow exhale out our mouths. I did this with a group and there wasn't an exhale out the mouth. So I really want to emphasize the exhale out the mouth. You're almost going to kind of purse your lips together like you're cooling soup, hot soup. And you want that long exhale. So we want the full benefit of that breath. So we're going to do 2 breaths together. Inhale through your nose. And we're going to hold. And then we're going to slowly release out our mouths for 8. You can sort of feel a shoulders drop, tension drop out of your upper body, maybe in your jaw. You feel tightness, maybe you clench your jaw. Let's focus on kind of resting your jaw and your shoulders on that exhale. So inhale for 4, hold, and a slow exhale out your mouth. I could just feel my shoulders kind of relax, just kind of checking in, feeling your feet back on the floor, recentering yourself, and do this every hour throughout your day. So then you have muscle memory. So then when you are triggered, you know to go to your breath and take your deep breaths.
When you mentioned that you did it with a group that didn't breathe out, to me, it's kind of a psychological thing. I'm breathing in health and breathing out things that need to just get out of the body, so I try to mentally think about that. The negativity, the stress, all that leaving your body through the exhale. Very important.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, like I said, we are going to tackle some kind of, I think, really interesting approaches to mental health. We're going to talk a little bit about music therapy. We're going to talk a little bit about art therapy and what role that plays in our society. And Lindsay, like I said, Lindsay and I have known each other for several years now and talked a little bit about music therapy on her journey. So, Lindsay, I'm going to kind of let you introduce yourself and your story. You already have the coffee and music therapy shirt on, so you are like on brand today, and the mug ready to go. And so if you want to kind of talk a little bit about the work that you do, we'd love to hear more about your story and the resources that you kind of provide within the community.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Kristen, thank you so much for the breath, something that I incorporate into my practice a lot as well. And sometimes I actually have 3 alarms on my phone that go off every day. They're my deep breath alarms because I tend to get too squirrely and busy throughout my day. But those 3 times every day, like clockwork. For real. So thank you so much for having me on. I'm Lindsay Zehren. I'm a music therapist and also a yoga teacher and a Reiki practitioner. And I have the honor and privilege of owning my own private practice called Copper Z Creative Wellness, but also working part-time and in close relationship with Noblesville Creates to bring a lot of what I do through the arts there as well, which is really cool and has been really fun. And they're a great group to work with. I graduated from St. Mary of the Woods College in Terre Haute with a music ed degree and taught for many years, but decided to go back for music therapy when it became really evident to me that really my passion lied in how to help people use music in their everyday lives to feel better, as opposed to learning all the nitty gritty of the elements of music. And we use the elements of music in music therapy every day to tackle non-musical goals. So really, music therapy started in around 1950 after World War II, and people would come home from war with injuries. Doctors started noticing that patients were getting discharged earlier and using less pain medication if they had a volunteer musician in their room. So from there, a lot of research came out of it. I love the research piece of it and how it works. And we're finding out more and more every single year that music really is this unique tool that is one of the only things we do as a human that lights up the whole brain all at once. So it's a really great way to work around damage in the brain. It's a great way to get our brain to work in an optimal way. And when that's happening, we're releasing all of these chemicals and hormones that help us feel good and help us feel better and help us feel connected. So my passion now is how we can use that music we're listening to already to help ourselves feel a little bit better. And if we can do some stretching and breathing along with that, then I think it's really fantastic. And really with music therapy too, I want to touch on what's really important, and the basis of all of it is that relationship between the music therapist and the clients that they're working with, and how music plays a role in that relationship.
I love that. So let's just practically put this into action. So
Yeah.
someone says, well, how can I use music to help me feel better? I mean, when we are depressed, when we're anxious, when we're sad, when we're grieving, music is so impactful to our nervous systems. So where does someone begin if they're like, I kind of want to start playing with this?
Yeah, so actually, I'm gonna take a page out of your book, Kristen. Let's talk about your breath. So that breath right there. A lot of people that I've worked with breathing, the counting part can be a little bit daunting. Same in yoga, if you're breathing with your movements, sometimes that can get a little daunting over time. It's a lot to keep track of. Music can take that away. So music has a steady beat to it and a rhythm. So we can start to pair that breath with the steady beat and the rhythm of the music. Rhythm is one of those elements of music we use most often in music therapy, I think. And it is because after a while, whatever music we're listening to, it's our body starts to match it. So this is in music therapy world, we call this entrainment. You can see this if you go to the new stadium in Noblesville when it opens and they're blaring music. If you look at everyone's feet, everyone's going to be walking on the beat, whether they know it or not. And that's because our brains love rhythm and they love patterns and they love to have that pattern continue. So what happens is our respiratory rate and our blood pressure, our heart rate, all of that starts to match whatever music we're listening to. So knowing that, if we want to calm down, we can use a breath like Kristen was just talking about, but pair it with some music that we already love that has a nice driving rhythm to it. And it helps us to keep our body in that nice spot to get the most benefit out of that breath. And we don't have to focus then on the counting part of it. So that's one practical way that we use music for sure. And it's also thinking about, if we go to the gym, what music you're listening to get yourself pumped up. It's not going to be really slow. It's going to be something with a driving fast beat so that you can match it while you're working out. So use that at night, but do the opposite. So find that rhythm and that can slow those systems down in our body and help us feel nice and relaxed, help us prepare for sleep. I have lots of playlists on my phone for myself that match mood and that match the activity that I need to be doing that day. So it's, again, we're already listening to music, most of us. So how can we do it a little more intentionally to help ourselves feel better and to feel our optimal best in whatever activity it is we're doing.
I love having clients use it to access emotions. So let's say I use it for my mom died. She loved Barbara Streisand. She loved memory and You Don't Bring Me Flowers Anymore and all the so anytime I'm like, oh, I think I need to process some of my grief, I'll put on that music that reminds me of my mom and journal. And so I encourage people, like, if you really feel like, oh, I something's trapped in my body, I need to kind of move it up and out. I feel like music is such a powerful way to access those emotions and to move them through, and move them up and out so they're not held in your nervous system. So if you have trouble, I tell people that are like, I feel stuck, I can't really access my sadness. I'm like, well, let's kind of put a playlist together. And I think teens love it too. Like, teens love a good playlist. They're like,
Oh yeah.
right? I mean, like, put your playlist together and let's talk about it. Let's access like what songs bring what to you emotionally. And I love it that way too. So I think I like the breath. Hadn't thought about it that way with the breath and the music. How did you get involved with Noblesville Creates? What is that? And then tell us about how art plays a role. Oh, yes, you have a question.
Can I before we transition? Sorry, I'm going to totally interrupt because I have a question about this. I think again, you have Kristen Boice, the expert, right, and you have Chris Jensen, the total novice. That's just going to ask random questions here. So, Lindsay, I think some people might think like music therapy. Okay, is it certain type of music? I think about like the spa when I'm getting, when I'm in the spa or getting a massage, it has this peaceful. But what you're saying, it's really any kind of music that really speaks to you. Can you kind of break down that myth a little bit for me?
Yeah, so I'm so glad you brought that up. So in the early 2000s, there was a study called the Mozart study that was done. Some of us may have heard it, where the claim was that music that was written by Mozart had this specific elements in a specific place that it could help kids study better for tests. They actually debunked this in a really cool way. So the study that they did, they had some kids doing that, some kids listening to Stephen King novels being read, and then some got to pick their music. And what they found was if you connect with the music, and it's similar to what Kristen was just saying about her mom. So Barbara Streisand for her is a connection to her mom. I don't have that connection to Barbara Streisand, but I have that connection in other ways to Bruce Springsteen and other, types of music, because music is so tied to our amygdala, which is our memory center. It's going to be super personal. So that study debunked the Mozart effect because it showed that really it's what music is important to you and what music has been part of your life. Getting ready for Fairyville last weekend, I was feeling really stressed, and I have a playlist called Have a Great Day, Lindsay, and most of it is pop punk music from when I was in high school because it was a time where I was a little more carefree than I am now as a mom and a business owner. So it takes your brain there to that moment. Which has powerful implications for things like Alzheimer's and dementia as well, because we can tap into some of those memories. But for everyone in their everyday life, it is a way to kind of escape, and it can be. So really, it's whatever music you connect with. And as a music therapist, it's really fun because that means I have to be able and to play and be ready to play anything that you ask me to play.
That's interesting. Yeah, like I said, I wanted to pause on that because I think to like the untrained person or somebody who might has some angst over music therapy, there might have been thoughts of like, well, I'm not sure if that really relates to me, but really it comes down to where is your connection point to your emotions, and what music takes you back to certain things. That makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. And it's using those elements, those building blocks of music. So your rhythm, your harmony, your melody, the form that the music is in, what instruments you're listening to, what pitches you're playing, all of those things. There's research that it affects your body in lots of different ways. So as a music therapist, my job is to talk to you, hear your story, figure out how music fits in, and then use those elements and building blocks to help you reach your non-musical goals, whether that's I'm learning guitar because I'm really working on empowering myself because I have low self-esteem. Well, then we're not really just learning guitar. We're building resilience. We're helping you cope. We're building up that empowerment and that self-esteem as you reach this one goal. So it's about way more than the music. It's about that person and how music can be used, like I said, to help them feel their best and be their best.
Awesome. Sorry, Kristen, I so rudely interrupted you there.
Oh, great. That's a different avenue than talk therapy too. I think you're using different you're using sensory processes too. that I think are really important. Our senses make a big difference in how we feel. That's why people say I'm overstimulated. It's too certain sounds can trigger things in people and your body reacts to that. And I think that's what makes music therapy so impactful because you're using the sensory system to access
Yeah.
different parts of yourself.
Lindsay,
Ex-
can you talk a little bit, and I'm intrigued by this now. Can you talk a little bit about like what a session looks like in the music there? I mean, I've been to counseling individually, so I know what it's like to sit and talk through all those things. You know, that's been, and I highly advise that for everybody. It's wonderful. But talk to me what a music therapy counseling session looks like for somebody
yeah.
that's intrigued.
That's a great question. It's a really tough question to answer because it is so different for everyone. So it could be from, I do a lot of work with people with Parkinson's. And one of the things that I use for them is really, it's a practical tool. I use the harmonica. The harmonica is basically a spirometer. It's just a lot more fun because you get to make music through it. It's very accessible to play. So for them, I'm physically having them play an instrument to build lung capacity so that they can have better breath control and have more of a decibel level when they speak. So that could be one session. But also, I could use the harmonica with a teenager to work on deep breathing. Because if they're taking those breaths and they're not realizing that they're not breathing out, a harmonica is going to make that really obvious right away when you don't hear that sound. So, again, that sensory, we're tapping into the aural sense then. And then I might use, if someone's feeling really overwhelmed that day, kind of like a guided meditation with music where we create almost a soundscape of what sounds in nature help you feel relaxed and super safe. And then we talk about igniting all of those senses. And music is kind of, in that sense, served as a container. So, though that would be someone like me, where silence is not the most comfortable thing, but music can help me be able to feel a little safer. And then for some people that I'm talking with, giving them something like I thought I had one right next to me. I would grab it, like a happy drum, which is a steel drum that has no wrong notes. You just hit it, and it sounds like wind chimes. So someone playing that after a while might feel a little more comfortable opening up to me because they have something to fidget with. They are creating kind of this safer space for themselves. So it really depends on that person and what they need that day. And this is why the arts in general and creative arts therapies are so impactful, is because they're so adaptable and flexible, and they can reach people in these ways that are really unique to the arts, because we can tailor that to you and whatever you need in that moment.
Which is a
And
perfect segue to Kristen Boice's
yeah,
question.
teeing you up.
That's perfect.
So how
Yeah.
did you get involved in Noblesville Creates, and how did the arts kind of play into mental health? And what do you have going with Noblesville Creates to connect?
Yeah. So I'm working with Noblesville Creates to bring in kind of this mental health and wellness aspect to everything that the arts are providing to the community. Noblesville Creates does a great job of connecting artists with resources and providing really cool opportunities and unique opportunities for the community to get together in the arts, like Fairyville last weekend. And for those of it's fun to participate in these things, yes, but also there's a really intentional thing behind it, in that isolation is problematic. And social isolation, we're finding every single day new studies that show that it is extremely impactful to our, not just our mental health, but our physical health. And there was a study a couple years ago that showed that it's the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day, and can take up as much as 15 years off of your life, social isolation. So I think in our post-COVID world, what we're seeing is kind of this withdrawal from people and withdrawal from this idea of community. And if you look at history, historically, the arts have been kind of the rallying cry for communities and bringing people together. And there's a lot of research on the fact that the arts in general, engaging in the arts, can help tap into some of that community, can help people feel a little less alone, a little less isolated. And that comes from the fact that when we engage with the arts, and this I say engage emphatically, because it's not just listening to music while you're at the grocery store and it's a secondary thing, but when you're actively participating in the arts, so I'm painting something, or I'm playing the guitar, or I'm singing in a group. When I'm doing those things, a few things are happening in my brain. My brain's releasing dopamine, serotonin, and those are happy hormones. They're making me feel happy, but they're also releasing oxytocin, which is our connection hormone. It helps us feel connected to those around us. And I don't think anyone would argue that our world feels really fractured right now. And I think the arts have this unique way to tap into this idea of community, and the fact that if you look at, might sound cheesy, but if you look at an orchestra, it doesn't work unless you have all those different instruments there. Just like our community doesn't work unless we have all the unique people in it coming together. And so my role at Noblesville Creates is to create some opportunities for people who might not consider themselves artists, or maybe look at the arts as almost this scary other thing, and look at it a little bit differently as, how can I go in there and set my judgment aside and just be able to play and create and kind of get back to this idea of community and having fun together, and see what we can create from that. So we're hoping to have a lot more opportunities to do that. Right now, with Noblesville Creates, I do a monthly children and parent class called Groove and Flow, where we do some singing, some dancing, and some stretching. And it really is an opportunity for parents to not take themselves so seriously and to have some fun with their kiddo, and at the same time get some good exercise. And also, when we're singing, when we're dancing, participating in music that way, our bodies take in more oxygen than when we just speak, when we get ready to sing. So it helps to oxygenate our body, which also helps us to feel better. So there are all these little things that happen that really add up to a profound impact and a profound result when done intentionally. A big thing that if you're listening to this today and you're like, I'm interested, but I just want to dip my toe in the water. This Friday, we're kicking off our Healing Power of the Arts exhibit with our first Friday event, which is 6 to 9 at Noblesville Creates. I'll be there with lots of different instruments. All the instruments are improvisational instruments, and they're all tuned with only the nice notes. So you can't play a wrong note. There is no wrong. It'll all sound beautiful. But come and just experience some music making with people around you, and in a way that is safe and effective. But we'll also have art exhibit this month is local artists and their interpretation of how the arts have helped them to heal. So you'll see a lot of visual art and some poetry, things like that as well at the exhibit.
That's awesome. And I want to kind of hit on a point that, first of all, it's funny how you made everything lead to the breath, right? It goes back to us not breathing and not providing our body with what it needs to process and heal and relax. So that was really interesting for you to bring that point back. But I also want to talk a little bit about that social isolation piece. Kristen, you and I have talked about this at length quite a bit, and I got a hat tip to City Councilor Aaron Smith, because he's spoken openly about kind of tackling the loneliness epidemic in our community, and in fact that we've kind of teamed up as a city to even look at, like, how do we design our new neighborhoods going forward, so houses are more facing commons area and the front porches are facing walkways, so you're connecting more with your neighbors. There's ways that we can even do it through just city layout to change some ordinances that require more pocket parks within new neighborhoods. And like I said, even if you think about some houses where they're faced, they have rear loading garages, if they're faced forward towards a commons area and there's walking paths in front of your home, if you're on your front porch, you're now meeting your neighbors more easily. So there's more and more that you're going to see us push, even from the city level down to the granular, UDO code level of how we are promoting and encouraging building of neighborhoods to kind of combat that.
I love to hear that. And
Yeah.
hopefully we're also on the creative scale. Another thing that we're getting ready to launch for May in the Stevenson house next to the Brick House, the Judge Stone House, for Noblesville Creates. we're going to have kind of an interactive exhibit. So it's going to have lots of different ways that you can experience some different creative arts therapy techniques that are safe to do on your own. So some of them will be listening, where you can put on a pair of headphones and have a guided meditation with some music. Some of them will be active, like mandala art, which is one of my favorite experiences for wellness, which just involves free drawing inside of a circle. But it's very, again, that has that container. It help you feel safe, but also express some of those things that maybe don't come out in words, that might come out in colors, or hit a drum and come out through music. But there will be lots of different exhibits in there, so to speak, for you to be able to try these different things, because I think that there is kind of a stigma around it for sure, but also this concept and idea that creative arts therapies are for only for kids. So I wanted to touch on that too, that I do work with all ages, and most creative arts therapists do, because it's not just play. There's a lot of opportunity for all ages to experience these things. And within the creative arts, we can generally find something for everyone, and some kind of common ground that really, like I said, is effective in bringing people together. And I love to hear that, I mean, the city is getting creative on how to tackle this idea of loneliness on a different scale, which is really exciting, because it's there, and it isn't just one age group either, which is the other reason it feels so daunting. I'm a mom of young kids, and it's a very isolating time. So we're trying to get creative on how we can help with childcare, so that people can feel like they can take care of themselves. And I also am trying to help caregivers. I think our state in general needs to support the people that are supporting others.
Kristen, do you have anything? I know we're getting close on time here. Do you want to chime in on anything?
I think you've summarized so much. I mean, there's so many aspects. The one thing we didn't hit on is shame, and that shame of I can't do art. I'm not creative. That belief I am not creative, I think blocks many people from even tipping their toe in the water, because like, I'm not creative. I can't draw, or I can't do whatever, fill in the blank. I'm not musical. What do you say to people that might have that belief?
Yeah, that I hear that more often than not. Just that there will be something for you to be able to tap into that, and that we can help you feel really empowered and safe in doing that. And that's part of my job in that experience, but also that it's there, and as much as possible, find that inner child. And if we can get to a place where our culture is making music on our front porches again, instead of just staring at a screen, I really think that we would all be better off. So see if you can be brave this week. Get out those paints that your kids have at home and paint with them, or color. Those adult coloring books are there for a reason. There's a whole bunch of fun research behind those. So get those out, get creative this week, and just notice how you feel before and after.
Yeah, and to your point, this Friday would be a great stand. You don't even have to do anything. You can come use your eyes, which God gave you, to go watch, and you can go see the exhibit there on Friday to kind of dab your toe. Like I said, you don't even have to participate. Just go walk around. Go walk around Noblesville Creates on Friday and see some of that, meet a new person. And if you're really brave, Kristen, you can always stop in tomorrow night, because the Noblesville Diversity Coalition is hosting a community conversation with Faith Community Church about mental health tomorrow night at 6:30 to 8 p.m. here at City Hall. Kristen, I imagine you're going to be there, aren't you?
I'm not going to be there. I can't.
Are you not? Okay, I should have checked that before I outed you on that one. Sorry.
It's the one time I couldn't be there. I'm like, I'm so
But
sorry.
you have participated many times before in these conversations, and they do great work. Patrick Probst and his team. So if you're feeling very brave, and again, I'm going to be there, so come be awkward with me, and come join us at 6:30 tomorrow night at City Hall for a great guided conversation around mental health. And then, if, like I said, then you're going to feel really confident. You're going to be like Picassoing on Friday at Noblesville Creates. It'll be great. So there's lots of opportunities. And I will also say, and sorry, I'm talking so much, but we have to think about like the Peony Festival coming up next month. Those are all art, creative ways, community building ways to get folks outside, out of their comfort zone, maybe a little bit, and come enjoy a community event like that. There's a lot of that going on.
Yes, I love
Absolutely.
that.
So, Kristen Boice, before we wrap up, first of all, Lindsay, you were awesome. Thank you so much for going over all this with us. There's been a lot of, I know I used to work for former Governor Mike Pence. His wife, Karen, is a big art therapy advocate. She talks about art therapy a lot. So there's a lot in this space for everybody. So we really appreciate your time today. Kristen, if I'm in a crisis mode right now, though, where do I need to go?
988. That is the new 911 for mental health. And there's lots of free community organizations if you are not sure where to turn. The City of Noblesville website has lots of resources, but 988 call or text 24 hours a day, 24/7. They're trained licensed clinicians on the other end. And we are so grateful you tuned in today. You matter, you're important, you're loved, and you're enough. I know Shane wants to tell us a different story, and that's just why we're here, is to say you matter. And thank you for being here today, Lindsay. Your work matters in the world, and we're grateful for you. And I'm grateful we had this time together today.
Yeah, Lindsay and Kristen, thank you so much for your time today. Stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you back here next month for another edition of Mental Health Monday.